Good morning. I thought I would get into it and talk about my mom before I forget anything. Simply because my mom in my life, see, in our life, moms ran things. My mom did all the whipping, she did all the feeding and the bathing and all that. And when I think about it, my dad wasn't no slouch. He took care of business. But it was like he did it because mom didn't do it. The way it worked, my mom was at the hospital and my dad worked on the railroad, so he would work 5 days on the road and 5 days coming back. And he went from City of Los Angeles Union Pacific Railroad on the train. So every now and then he would, I think I can remember maybe one or two whippings, especially one. And it wasn't no big deal. He was just like, hey, mom, you tear you behind all the pieces. So, hey, that's the cool thing. But in our family, the mothers did all that part. They raised us, and they raised me to put diapers on all my children, all of them. Something different about daddies and fathers. I was raised to put diapers on all my children. And I put diapers on all my cousins and, that kind of stuff. We were raised up. But I was really talking about my mother. Wow. My mother, like I said, she raised everybody and brought everybody out here. See, we are from Tennessee. But when my mother found out what my dad had in her mind, boy, she got all her family out here. She got her two sisters, and the youngest one stayed with us. The other one married out in Cleveland, I believe, and she even came out here with my cousins, Marcus. Oops. That's the only name I'm going to say. I'm going to try to keep this without no names. But anyway, y'all know him. Anyway, so they came out here, and his brother was older, and he came out and he babysitted. But it's so funny because now we're talking about my mother, because my mother got all of them out here, not only the brothers and the sisters, but the mom and the daddy. And that was so cool. They not only came out here and lived with us briefly, but they got their own houses and moved out. And oh man, life was moving back then. So the thing was, they came out here and they got their own stuff. But now, they came out here and got married. And my mother was the first one, and then her sister got married, and she came out here. But they had babies. 2 years later, after me, there was Chico, and we hung out for a while. But when they came out here, boy, she got married and started having children. And to make a long story short, all the mommies had children. But my mother didn't. She went to the hospital too, but it wasn't for children. Come to find out, she had leukemia. And I didn't notice anything because my family's strong, and she did things. She liked to organize. The organizing was like, we go to Cabrillo Beach in the summertime. We'd have a church picnic at Lincoln Park, I believe it was. And holidays, we'd cook dinner. My mother would do Christmas, and her sisters would do the others, like New Year's and Easter, and let me see. Oh, Thanksgiving. Man, boy, those were some days. And that's when the cousins get together. And like I said, I was the first one out there, so I had to show them how to do the city life. They trying to do me the country life, but I wasn't having it. I didn't want no outhouses and none of that stuff. But anyway, I noticed they all came back with babies, but my mother never came back from the hospital. Not after Chico. Yeah. And one day, I'll never forget it. Uh, I woke up probably early or something. I don't know what time it was. And all I could hear was crying and remind me what they biblically say, the gnashing of their teeth and all that, screaming and crying, and it's horrible. And one of the uncles came in there and told me my mother had passed away. Yeah, I didn't know anything about death. It's like, okay, passed away, fine. And here comes my dad crying, talking about your mother's gone. I don't know where she went. I don't know nothing. And I did not go to the funeral. I remember that very good because they asked me, did I want to go? And it's like, no. I was treated a very special way. I don't know why, but it seems like I was special. Like I said, I always felt like I was treated like Jesus. You know, that's deep. But the whole thing, I didn't go, so I didn't go through the mourning period. I didn't go through those periods of grief and stress, and I didn't know nothing about that. And it's probably the reason why I got so comfortable with the other part of life. You know, because I remember so distinct. I didn't go to the funeral. I went to other people's funerals, but not mine. Or, it's not mine, but my mother's. You know. And I mourned and I thought about it, and I have no regrets, but I did not go through that period. So let me just say that about that part, because it might have stressed me out in ways I didn't stress out. And this was in the period between the 4th and the 6th grade. And that was a period when, oh my God, I guess we were getting ready to go through adolescence and the junior high school period. So let's move up. I'm going through, junior high school, which means I moved. We moved out of the Roxton area and moved over to 6641 7th Avenue. Oh, that was adolescence. And let me say now, when people die, I didn't know about Social Security like I did. All I knew is like this, at 11 years old.
Run the game between some shit so long,
Okay. So yeah, I am 11 years old at 1961. My mother died, but my dad came in and told me I had some money. At 11 years old, I got a check for $11.90, and we took that check and opened up a bank account. And I put that money in the bank, and I put $500 in the bank, and I went to Frederick Lewis and bought me a 3-piece gold pinstripe suit, and I was just thinking I was all that in a bag of records. At 11 years old, I mean, okay. And they were telling me about girls. Am I a playboy looking at 77, son? Man, I was really excited about all this life that I thought I was going to live without my parents or anybody else. After all, I'm Gary. My goodness. So, here we go. I took off running. I became very popular. Oh my God. I don't want to go into details about all my chicaneries, but I will say one thing. I had that spirit of, my goodness. I guess I was exposed to a lot of stuff In junior high school, I had to go through it. I think the whole miracle of life is to go through the life and make it. It's not easy, but when you can say you went through it, that's a victory within itself. There's no victory in just meeting and knocking at the door and you don't want to go in and find out what's really going on. So I'm thankful that a lot of times I didn't know where I was getting into, but I could finally see at the end of the journey, I can say, wow, man, you mean to tell me you're ready to go? And sometimes you try to talk people out of it. But in this case, why not? I made it, so can you. I remember the junior high school period. If you go through the classes like we did, it's like, wow. After a certain period, you go through it and you learn. I remember going through language. I tried to learn another language, Spanish. And then when I found out that in order to speak the language I really wanted to speak, I had to understand a little bit more than what I really wanted to understand. It caused me to be discouraged. And that in and of itself is like, wow, I did not want to become discouraged about something. I wanted to be encouraged. So, what do I do to get that kind of accomplishment? Sometimes we become or rather discouraged when people tend to bend you in a way that you did not want to get bended into. I was like that. Is that because I didn't want to really be who and I want to say who I am today? Not necessarily. It's like, God's not through with me yet. Let me keep going on. Where else am I going with me? And let's put it on you. The whole thing is during the junior high school period, it formulated me into a person that when I stepped aside and talked to God instead of everybody else, I set some goals. And the little goals that I set, wow, they were great. We used to have 50-yard dashes and 100-yard dashes that became bigger and bigger. And I'll never forget when I finally got into high school, it was like a 2-mile run. And you can't gallop on those kind of runs. You got to pace it and take your time. It reminds me of the story of the tortoise and the turtle and the tortoise. And it's not given to the one that just gets there real quick and fast. You might not be ready to acquire the spoils, so to speak. But let's just say that junior high period for me, it caused me to become exposed to a lot of the childish things that kids grow up into. That also touches bases with the adolescence of things. And it was good. I learned and I learned. I also did it without a mother, and I had to learn a lot of things. There were so many different particular incidents, but I think what I'm going to do is pause for the cause and think about the details of such an excursion. In any event, be blessed.